tuned in to the Community Cats podcast. Ready? Let's go.
Welcome to the Community Cats podcast. I'm your host, Stacy LeBaron. I've been involved with helping homeless cats for over 30 years with the Merrimack River Feline Rescue Society. The goal of this podcast is to expose you to amazing people who are improving the lives of cats. I hope these interviews will help you learn how you can turn your passion for cats into action. And today we're speaking with Jackie Noble. Jackie is the executive director at the Orphan Kitten Club. She is a renowned expert in neonatal kittens and shelter programs, bringing over a decade of dedicated experience to the field of animal welfare. Jackie played a pivotal role in overseeing the first and longest running shelter kitten nursery before joining Orphan Kitten Club as executive director. And of course, where there are kittens, there are always community cats. Her leadership and innovative approaches have significantly contributed to the advancement of neonatal kitten care and shelter operations. In addition to her hands-on experience, Jackie is also the author of The Fantastic World of Baby Animals. Jackie, I'd like to welcome you to the show.
Thank you, Stacy. I'm excited to be here.
I'm so thrilled for this conversation. It's very exciting. I've been reading all the information about the Orphan Kitten Club, so I have all my questions all packed up here together. But first and foremost, how'd you get to be so passionate about cats?
Oh my gosh. I think I didn't realize how passionate I was about cats in my childhood until I looked back at a picture of my childhood bedroom, and it was cat bedspread, cat wallpaper, cat stuffed animals on the bed. And I was like, oh my gosh, cats have been in my life forever. And, you know, back when I was a kid, it was just one of those things I was really, really obsessed with. I wanted a kitten for most of my childhood. And when I finally was able to get one, I was so overjoyed. And I have a general passion for animals. So I went in the direction of studying zoology at university. So I achieved a master's in zoology and was looking for a job. And I happened to be at a wedding and someone said, "Oh, you need a job? I'm leaving my job. You should have my job." I said, "Oh, what is it that you do?" And she said, "I'm a caregiver at a kitten nursery." And I said, "What? That's a thing?" And after a few glasses of wine, she called her boss and scored me an interview. And that's how I entered into the professional world of felines way back when in 2010. But yeah, the love for felines kind of runs deep throughout my childhood as well.
Yeah, and it's interesting. You have lived in different parts of the world. And before we hit the recording button, you were sort of talking about how there are different outlooks and opinions about cats in general. I think we all have a really hard time with, should cats be indoors only? Should they be indoor, outdoor? Should they be outdoor only? What is a humane community for cats as well as for kittens? After you've seen all these different places around the world, what would be your cat utopia?
So I grew up in Scotland, and in the UK in general, indoor-outdoor cats are very common. I think it wasn't even questioned growing up. If you got a cat or a kitten, they were going to be an indoor-outdoor animal. And we had cat flaps. They had open access. It was just kind of part of the culture of being in that part of the world. And then when I moved to the US, we continued that with our cats that we had. So we let them indoors, outdoors. And I think there's more dangers for an indoor outdoor cat, which is why traditionally I think in the US a lot of people go with indoor pet cats. But I think the reality is there are a lot of cats living outdoors in the United States, and those we call community cats here in the US, which is not common terminology all around the world, but we certainly have a challenge here in the US with kitten overproduction due to those community cats. And learning about all of those differences moving to the US was really, really interesting for me, and how to tackle that issue. And it's now kind of a life's work for me to get to the root of that kitten overpopulation and to help them through the process of community cat programs and KNR programs.
So here you are, you're talking about community cats, and 20 years ago, we would have talked about feral cats. In your opinion, what's the difference between community cats versus feral cats?
I remember in my early days at the shelter, we used the word feral a lot. And one of the things that we did in the kitten nursery during kitten off season was we would take in these cats from the county shelter, and they didn't have a live outcome because they were deemed feral. And once we assessed them more, I realized the word feral was not accurate for these cats. They were under-socialized, perhaps, stressed in the shelter, definitely, and changing their environment changed how they acted. So those cats in a larger space, like a giant playpen, were approaching for food. They had clearly had good experiences with people. They were not feral, but they weren't quite at the stage where they were adoptable. So these were cats that had been loved in some way, but they hadn't been fully socialized. So I think there is a lot of kind of variation of that language. So I tend to use in the shelter setting, would use fractious over feral because a lot of it is environmental. But for community cats, some are feral and have not been socialized at all to people, but many of them are loved and maybe social to people because people are their food source.
It is funny, the world of living with a lot of kittens and kitten nurseries. And when I was running the Merrimack River Feline Rescue Society, even in New England, we had areas with a lot of kittens in urban areas, in areas where spay neuter was not accessible to the community. And we had a lot of challenges there. And I would look at the kittens in the dumpster and I'd be like, we don't need to see this anymore. This really shouldn't be happening. And so trying to figure out a way to go upstream, we're rescuing those kittens, we're bottle feeding those kittens, we're socializing those kittens, but we also realize that there are moms and dads connected to those kittens, and I refer to those cats as Adam and Eve. So at the Orphan Kitten Club, you have created this concept called full circle TNR. Tell me what that is, what does that mean, and how did this phrase come about?
Yeah, so full circle, where there are kittens, there are unaltered cats, right? Kittens are born from cats that haven't been fixed. So the theory of full circle is to end that cycle. So the cycle is the circle of reproduction through discovering where those kittens came from. So a lot of the times if you're a rescue group and you're not the origin of the kittens, you're often transferring those kittens in from a shelter. We've learned the importance of that collaborative point and asking, hey, where were these kittens found? Can we have the found address? Because it's not just about taking in those kittens and saving them and giving them resources. It's about stopping that cycle. And we're dedicated to making sure the kittens that we take in at Orphan Kitten Club are the last kittens born in that colony. And that is really the full circle effect, is going back to their origin and stopping the issue at the root. But in order to do that, if you're a transfer in organization, you really need to create that trust with the group you're getting your kittens from. To engage and get that found address is really, really paramount in this full circle concept. And we've been doing full circle before it had that name. We've always cared about the origins of our kittens, where they've come from. We know now in the national data set that 80% of kittens that enter shelters are coming in as strays. They're being born outside. So the large majority of kittens are being born to these community cats, and the only solution is to get those community cats altered and vaccinated, which is also vital to supporting kittens, because we also see a lot of very sick kittens coming into shelters as well from colonies that are not vaccinated. So we're kind of dealing with multiple challenges coming in, and that full circle piece goes back to the root and addresses the colony where the kittens came from.
So what if I am an organization that is really focused primarily on adoptions, on adopting out kittens, fostering kittens, I haven't really worn that TNR hat. Do you partner up with other organizations sort of in the neighborhood to collaborate together, or do you encourage that kitten organization to learn how to do TNR?
I think there's multiple approaches, and chances are if you're an adoption rescue and you're foster based, your fosters are going to care about this as well. I've had multiple foster parents ask me, where were my kittens found? I want to be a part of the solution. So if there are ways for you to get your own organization involved, you certainly can. There are also amazing ways to collaborate with your local groups that are already out in the field, potentially doing that work already and sharing information, maybe sharing resources like could potentially volunteer for multiple groups and support in that way. So I think there are definitely several approaches you can take, but one of the key ones we've seen at Orphan Kitten Club is collaboration. We're working on a colony right now, and we're collaborating with the local group Feral Cat Coalition, who are a huge entity in the community of San Diego for offering spay neuter services for community cats. And they learned of a community member that reached out. They needed support with trapping because that community member cannot physically trap on their own. So they reached out to us at Orphan Kitten Club and said, hey, do you want to team up? And they know we have skilled trappers on our volunteer base. So do they. And we're going to go out there and we're going to support this community member through a collaboration between both groups. And it will be even more impactful that we're doing it together. So I think those open lines of communication in the community between groups is really, really important for getting to the root of the issue with community cats.
We have spoken about some projects that you're working on, but you also do quite a bit of grant funding. And when I was looking at your impact report, it wasn't like we just give money out to organizations to help them with their good work, which is great. It's wonderful. But it seemed like you had some funding strategy and maybe even some examples of these areas where groups have been successful in their projects.
Yeah, so Orphan Kitten Club is partnered with over 100 groups across the country. We have a special passion for the areas of highest need, which are the South Atlantic area specifically has the highest kitten intake in the whole country. And so we do work across the entire country, but we try and focus the funding in the areas of highest need. So one of the types of funding we do are medical grants. So those are for kittens that have a moment of need for a medical reason. So they may have been born with a congenital difference that they need a surgery to correct, and that group needs support with the surgery. So we'll fund kittens on that individual level. And then we'll fund groups with innovative programs related to kittens. So how can we help with life-saving on a larger scale? And that's a type of grant funding that's driven by the partner. They are saying, this is our need in our community. Can you support us with funding so we can execute this particular project? We also have a type of grant funding that our very, very passionate committee members come up with a strategic idea. So we recently sent formula to our partners all across the country. We sent 1 million meals so that the kittens that are coming into those groups have the formula that they need to thrive and go on to adoption. And then we also offer emergency grants in times of natural disaster type events where we know our partners really, really need the support with hurricanes or wildfires. So we have a bucket of funding for emergency grants as well. But typically we're focusing on the medical and the programmatic type grants. But we also fund research, which is really exciting. So kitten-focused research to advance the welfare of kittens. And there was a group recently that applied for a medical grant, and they're based in Florida. And they applied for this little kitten named Indy, who was found outside, had really, really bad upper respiratory infection, bulging eyes. It was quite a progressed infection where this kitten was having some challenges. And they applied for funding to support enucleation surgery. So the kitten was going to need both eyes removed due to how far the upper respiratory infection had progressed. And they let us know, we're helping this kitten and we're requesting funding for this kitten, but the programs that you funded in the past are still in effect. And they have a Team Kitten Watch that they go to the address where the kitten was found and they scope it out, and they found a lot of cats were in the area, of course, because when there are kittens, there are cats. And they sent a trap team out to that colony, and they said there was, I think, double digits adult cats in that colony. And while they were there, they found more kittens. And the kittens also had upper respiratory infection. And they were able to bring those kittens into their rescue, vaccinate, alter those cats. Those cats went back to the colony. And they let us know they also used protocols through our research funding that was developed to treat the kittens with URI that weren't quite as progressed as Indy was. And they were able to save all of those kittens' eyes through this research that we were working on with UC Davis. So they were able to add in an antiviral medication along with the antibiotic, and the kittens did really, really well. So it was a moment of, wow, this is like the triangulation of all of our programs and funding that we do coming together. It was a full circle program that they started that they've continued on. We were able to help Indy with that medical grant, and we were able to help the other kittens through the research that was funded. And it was just this beautiful moment for us to say, wow, this is like what it's all about. It's these types of kitten programs are making a difference, and, not just in that one community, but all over the country. And that was really inspiring to hear everything. So now we know no more sickly kittens are coming in from that colony, and the kittens that were there were addressed and are getting cared for. And that was a really beautiful moment with that group that we were working with.
Yeah. And Jackie, what you're bringing forward here to me in your words is what is important to your organization and to the organizations that you collaborate with, and really understanding that there is a goal at the end. The ultimate goal is changing the environment that these cats are living in, that these organizations are working in, whether it's one colony or whether it is a whole city or, a large community. So having an impact feeling that impact is so important because it motivates you. You're like, wow, this is wonderful. This research helped this group of kittens, but not just this group of kittens. It's going to help the next group of kittens, and it's going to help the next one. When you talk about the eyes, that was my aha moment back in the 90s. The dumpster full of kittens, 35 kittens, all of them had to have at least one eye taken out back in the 90s. I'm standing there behind the bar with the broken glass and all these kittens all around me here. I look to my left and I see 3 apartment buildings off in the woods. And around the trees, I see eyes looking at me. And it's 60 adult cats.
Oh my gosh.
Looking at me going, now what are you doing?
You're like, I'm coming back for you.
Yeah. And we made sure that phase 1, we got all the kittens in. Everybody got adopted. We had a couple that lost both eyes. Everybody else lost at least one eye. Went back, got the adults, went into the apartment complex and offered free spay neuter to the folks in the apartment complex for their cats. So we went upstream again because those are the soon to be potentially abandoned cats. Because I don't know about you, but I don't want to live with an unneutered male cat. And if I can't afford to get an unneutered male cat fixed, I'm going to get irritated. It's going to do damage to my apartment, and I'm going to let that cat out. So there's Adam. Bye-bye. And Eve goes into heat next door, and then she goes out, and it starts all over again. So we have to make sure we go upstream even further into that apartment complex to make sure that the cats that are there have easy and affordable access to spay-neuter services in order to build that buffer zone, so that then if for some reason we have a pandemic and we lose our veterinary resources, there's a little bit of a cushion in there before we start sprouting back up again with the numbers that we've seen, after the pandemic, because we had a retrenchment in the number of spay-neuter appointments available to us. And so you're talking about what is the impact, in every organization, I think, should sit down and try and sort of think about what does impact mean to them as an organization. And by going full circle and looking at it in that way, you will see impact. With transport, it's very interesting because there's an organization back in the 90s that was doing a lot of transport dogs, mainly puppies, from the West, from Nebraska to New England. But their one requirement was the moms got spayed.
Yep, that's a great requirement.
Then the organization that they worked with in Nebraska, they were like, okay, here's our sphere of organizations we pull from. And then it got bigger. Then it got bigger, and then it was like, we're too far for the reach. So whether it's the Spay the Mom program, whether it's Full Circle TNR, whether it's in a transport program, ensuring that the source is getting access to spay neuter, it's taking it up the ladder. And I think that it's really fascinating.
Confident, compassionate, certified. If you're ready to make a real difference for community cats, it all starts with the right training. Join us this weekend for the next TNR certification workshop, presented by Neighborhood Cats and hosted by us, the Community Cats Podcast. This expert-led interactive online event will walk you through everything you need to know, from planning a trapping project and using the right equipment, to colony care, dealing with tough neighbors, and working with spay-neuter clinics. Whether you're just getting started or want to sharpen your skills, this workshop will help you trap smarter and save more lives. All attendees receive a digital certificate after passing a brief quiz, plus access to a private Facebook group for ongoing support, along with extensive handouts and resources. Can't make it live? We got you. Registration includes access to the full recording and all handouts. Get all the details and register now at communitycatspodcast.com/TNR. That's communitycatspodcast.com/TNR.
When we launched the Community Cats Podcast, our goal was simple: share stories and strategies to help cat lovers turn their passion into action. But something amazing happened. Our community grew, and so did our mission. Over the years, we've added webinars, conferences, certification courses, downloadable tools, and a whole lot more to support people who care about cats. So it's time for our name to reflect everything we do. The podcast isn't going anywhere, but our overall platform is rebranding as Community Cat Central. It's the same team, the same heart, and the same commitment, just with a fresh new look and even better ways to help you take action for cats in your community. You'll start seeing updates soon, including a brand new website, smarter email tools, and resources that are easier to access and use. We're so grateful to have you on this journey with us, and we can't wait to show you what's next. Want an easy grant opportunity for your animal organization? Maddie's Fund is giving away a $3,000 grant each month to one lucky Maddie's Pet Forum member. You'll automatically be entered to win each month when you start a new discussion, reply to a new post, or upload a new library resource. Learn more at forum.maddiesfund.org today. Tell us a little bit more about the Orphan Kitten Club, some of the projects that you're working on.
So at Orphan Kitten Club, we're obviously very passionate about kittens, but we're most passionate about changing unfortunate statistic that exists. And we only recently have the national data set that includes 0 to 8-week-old kittens broken out. So traditionally, a kitten in a shelter is classed as a 0 to 5-month-old animal. And when I'm talking about a kitten, I'm talking about a little bitty kitten, pre-adoption age kitten. So we're talking 0 to 8-week-olds. And we were able to work with Shelter Animals Count, and we were able to pull out some of that data. And we discovered that kittens in that 0 to 8-week-old category are the least likely to survive if they enter a shelter, of any animal entering the shelter. And that statistic is something we've suspected, but we have that information now. And we are striving to change that statistic, whether that be through addressing the overpopulation issue through full circle programs, whether it be through addressing the kittens that are currently in front of us. Because while we're working on spay and neuter, it's not an overnight fix. We have to address the kittens as well. So we are really working hard to address that for kittens at all different levels. One of the things that we're doing right now is we're working to make sure that we're making really strategic decisions with our funding and tracking our metrics. So we're encouraging all groups to track their metrics. Earlier on, you were mentioning about upstream impact. And when we're talking full circle, we're not necessarily saying a kitten came in, I'm rushing to that colony right now, this second, and getting them fixed. Although, if you can get your finder to go back and get you that queen, or convince them to bring the whole family in, or hold off and maybe wait till they're older and not bring a bottle baby in, bring a kitten in once it's fully weaned. All of those things are great. However, realistically, during kitten season, we can't run out for every single litter of kittens that comes in. So we're looking back on our data for the kitten season and we're looking at hotspots. So we're encouraging groups to look at where all their kittens are coming from, maybe create a hotspot map and address zip codes in your community that are clearly in the highest need, and take your time during winter to get out there and do some kind of mass spaying and neutering in those areas. And a lot of the times there's building trust in those areas with the community members and building that relationship first. So we are currently reviewing some grants that we're deciding if we're going to fund. And there's two that came to us, one in Texas, one in Michigan, and they've both gone and looked at their hotspot data. And one group in particular is tracking where panleukopenia litters come from. And they've gone even more granular and they're looking at the data for disease. And they're saying, we're starting here because it's so resource intensive for us to keep getting in panleukopenia positive kittens. We're going to start in those colonies and address those first. So we're going to use our hotspot map for kittens that have come in with panleukopenia, and we're going to fix the animals there first and address that first. And I was like, oh, that's so smart. Thinking about your future resources and your foster parents' experience and all of these things, that was really impressive. And then we have another group that's looking at hotspots in underserved zip codes that don't have a lot of resources. And they're saying, okay, for us, and this is a larger shelter, let's focus our resources in on these communities that potentially need more support and access to spay and neuter. So they're going more down the access to care route for their community. And we are so excited to see grant applications come in like that, because we're kind of moving beyond funding kitten kits and things like that, which are incredible and everybody needs them, but really looking at, wow, what is going to make a difference in these communities? And to see that progression of these groups that we've been working with level up to that stage and really think strategically has been very exciting for our committee of funders. And that is the level of excitement Orphan Kitten Club wants around the solutions for kittens in this country. It's like really well thought out, smart, metric-driven solutions are what we're looking for and what we're excited to fund. And we're also looking at, then at the back end, that research is really important to us to know that we have global solutions. Once we have published research, that really hits the kitten community on that global level too.
Yeah, and we're about to start into a new year. So it's a great time to think about goals and challenges and all that stuff. And I'm going to challenge the community cat folks that are out there to try and think more strategically, to be able to take a pause, take a breath, and think about in 2026, what are the changes that I want to see in the community that I'm involved with? How do we want to address it? You mentioned some of the things. I have a blog post about cat cycling. You know, in the summertime, we're all reactive. We're all worrying about our kittens. We've got all these emergencies going on. We have injured cats. But in our winter season, we have a time there to be able to help the owned cat community and expend some resources getting everybody spayed, neutered beforehand. Back in olden times, there used to be a neuter campaign in January, and in February was Beat the Heat. And they were great because they really did make an impact if you utilize those funds on those hotspots that you referred to there. So, Jackie, I think it's a great point, and I do challenge our listeners to begin to think that way, think strategically, and how you're going to measure your impacts too. Let's bring the level of our community cat care up at a higher level. Let's be proud. Let's bring it forward. I know some folks have to still feed in the shadows and they have to trap in the middle of the night in the darkness. And I mean, trapping at night is something that happens anyway, but we should be proud of our community cat programs and be able to celebrate them and celebrate the fact that we are assisting cats. So if folks want to see the work that you've done, is there the website for the Orphan Kitten Club?
Yeah, go to orphankittenclub.org. And 2026 is actually our 10-year anniversary for Orphan Kitten Club. So we're really excited for this milestone. And we've been growing and our impact is growing and we're so excited. So if you want to support our work, you can click that donate button at orphankittenclub.org/donate. If you'd like to partner with us, we have a partner page and a partner application that is open. And we are always looking to increase our partnerships. So if you're working with an organization that cares about kittens and community cats, you can certainly click that partnership application as well. And we'd be so grateful to expand those partnerships and to have your support so we can keep doing all the amazing things for kittens and community cats out there, getting them fixed and addressing that kitten overpopulation right at the root.
Hannah Shaw is very involved with the Orphan Kitten Club. I interviewed Hannah. She was one of the first people I interviewed for the podcast. The podcast's anniversary is also in 2026, too, our 10-year anniversary. So we must have started both of our organizations around the same time. Can't believe we will be in double digits with our organizations. We've both, I think, grown up a lot over the last 10 years. It's tremendous. The work that you've done at Orphan Kitten Club and the work that Hannah has done has been great. Any last thoughts that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Just so grateful for everyone that's involved in supporting community cats and kittens. There's so many things you can do, of course, fostering, donating, volunteering. And of course, if you aren't a trapper yet, we encourage you to get out there and help prevent those kittens being born. If you love kittens, get out there and support with trapping as well. Get to the root of the issue and join in and volunteer. I think it's something that we all are passionate about and love doing. So we hope you join us in that.
Excellent. And folks, don't forget, we have our monthly TNR certification workshops. So if you want to learn how to do trap, neuter, return, we usually have them on the first Saturday of the month. And we have a whole range of certification programs that will be coming live in 2026. And we look forward to getting everybody certified in all kinds of community cat information. I love it when people put it on their LinkedIn pages that they are TNR certified. It's a lot of fun. Jackie, thank you so much for joining me today and for being a guest on the show. And I hope we'll have you on again in the future.
Thank you for having me. This has been great. Thank you, Stacy.
That's it for this week. Please head over to Apple Podcasts and leave a review. We love to hear what you think, and a 5-star review really helps others find the show. You can also join the conversation with listeners, cat caretakers, and me on Facebook and Instagram. And don't forget to hit follow or subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss a single show. Thanks for listening, and thank you for everything that you do to help create a safe and healthy world for cats.